Hello, everyone. Be welcome to the program to Know Spiritism. Today, we are going to have the seventh program around the works of Chico Xavier. So, you all are very welcome here. We are here from Belo Horizonte, Brazil, from Portal Saber Espiritismo. I'm here with Marco Gandra at the back office, and we are also transmitting to the DSN network, Discover Spiritism network, and also to Kardec Radio. So all of you be very welcome. Today we are talking about the lyric genre of Chico Xavier's work. What is a lyric genre? It is the most often expressed by poetry. This genre is mainly concerned with the inner world of the poem, the lyrical self, which can also be called the lyrical subject, the lyrical voice, or the poetic voice. Outward events act as a stimulus for the poet to write. What is fundamental in a poem is the work with words, which gives scope for understanding the emotion, the thoughts, the feelings of the lyrical self, and often lead to a reflection. One of the most important roles of the poem is to keep alive the historical experience of humanity and record the precepts of the times that are changing. Also, the importance of the word in the poem is so relevant that it is possible to take advantage of all the phonetic, morphological, and synthetic richness of the language. And through it, various ways of provoking sensations in the reader's inner self, inner being, are constructed. Because of this intensity of expression, lyric works tend to be brief and accentuate the rhythm and the musicality of the language. It is so very neat, so very important for our Spiritist doctrine to have those poets from beyond, from the spiritual life, to come back and write through special mediums, like you can see in the work of Allan Kardec, the Medium's book. The mediumship to receive poetry is a very special, a very delicate type of mediumship. And we can find in Chico Xavier a most important medium of this kind of mediumship. So let's see what works in his books are from the lyrical genre. Let's see the next one. One type of the lyric genre is the odes and lyrics. Let's see, what is the ode? The ode is an enthusiastic and melodic text, usually a song, generally much longer than a sonnet. It involves various types of feelings, including the analysis of concepts, thoughts, and reflections. And we can see types of odes and lyrics in the musics that Chico Xavier wrote. Most of them were written by the spirit of Emmanuel, his guide, and was given to various Brazilian singers like Roberto Carlos, like Erasmo Carlos, like other ones in the Chitãozinho and Chororó, uh, the couple. Chico Xavier also gave it to Vanderleia, and some of them, like Alma Gêmea, is a very, very neat one. The, about talking about the soul, the soulmate, and the very, very well played is also Roberto Carlos' Companheiro, which is in English companion. And the most beautiful one, it's not here, but in my opinion is the most beautiful one, is the lyrics of the man, or O Homem, which talks about Jesus Christ himself and is sung by Roberto Carlos. We know those lyrics were given free of charge, free of every copyright to those singers, so that they can sing and do whatever they want, as they effectively did. So those are kinds of odes and lyrics in the works of Chico Xavier. Let's see another example. Are the hymns. Okay, what is the hymns? The hymns, they are a glorifying or even sanctifying text. We have country hymns, we have religion songs, and also love hymns. That both of them, that the country, the nations, the religions, and also the love hymns, they are all very important types of hymns, and Chico Xavier wrote lots of them. We can see mainly in the romances written by Emmanuel, like 2,000 years ago, 50 years later, and Ave Christ, Hail Christ, Renounce, Paul and Stephen. All of those romances, they all have hymns, mainly religious, and also love hymns. Let's see some examples of that from the spirit of the Portuguese poet João de Deus. We have the prayer, in Portuguese, the a prece. And also from the spirit of Bezerra de Menezes, we have in Portuguese diretrizes, and in English directives. Now we can go on. Let's see. This is the most important type of the lyric genre, which is poems and sonnets. And we can see here first let's see what is a sonnet. A sonnet is a text in poetry with 14 verses divided into 2 quartets and 2 tercets. And they have, of course, the rhyme. It is one of the most difficult forms of elaboration at the poem writing, precisely because it has an exact mode and because it involves great needs of synthesis with a very rigorous rhyme scheme. So this is a very elaborated form of poetry, and we can see that the spirits of the Brazilian and Portuguese poets that wrote through Chico Xavier, they were masters of this kind of sonnets, of poems that we call sonnets. We can find them in all of Chico Xavier poetry books. Let's see some of those examples, please. Okay, the first the very first book that was published by Chico Xavier in 1st of June 1932, Parnaso de Além Túmulo, the Parnassus from Beyond. This is a very, very important book, and we can say by the work of our dear friend Alexandre Caroli Rocha from the University of Campinas, Unicamp, his work on his master's work on literature was done on this book, comparing the way of writing poetry that those poets wrote through Chico Xavier and the way they used to write poetry when they all were incarnated here on earth. And the work of Dr. Alexandre Caroli Rocha found out that those identity were perfectly articulated through Chico Xavier mediumship, so that we can say that those poets were in fact the ones that were writing through Chico Xavier's psychographic mediumship. This is a very, very important book. Also, the book that is the number 100 that was published by Chico Xavier is the book Poetas Redivivos, the revived poets, that were published in 1969 through the Brazilian Federation, Spiritist Federation, FEB. There are other books dedicated to one poem, to one poet himself, like Volta Bocage, Comeback Bocage, the well-known French poet that wrote through Chico Xavier. There are the book called Alta de Souza, which gives us a perspective of one only poet, which is Alta de Souza. She was a poet from the state of Rio Grande do Norte in Brazil. She lived a few years and let us a beautiful poetry work. And after her death, she continued to write through Chico Xavier. Also, we can see the book Maria Dolores. Maria Dolores was a very well-known poet from the state of Bahia in Brazil, and with a very particular way of writing her poems, and her style is right very, very close through the mediumship of Chico Xavier. She was a spiritist herself when she was here on earth with us, and after her death she continued to dedicate herself to the spiritism works through the mediumship of Chico Xavier. We have also the works of our dear poet from the state of Rio de Janeiro, which is Casimiro Cunha, and he wrote the book Cartas do Evangelho, Letters from the Gospel, and also the Cartilha do Bem, which is the collective of the good. And also we cannot forget the work Lira Imortal, Immortal Lira, which has lots of Brazilian and Portuguese poets. So we can find very exquisite sonnets from all kinds of poets, especially in those works. The Parnassus from Beyond, the Immortal Lira, and the revived poets: Parnaso de Além Túmulo, Lira Imortal, and Poetas Redivivos, the names of those books in Portuguese. Let's see another one. Now we can talk about anthologies. That is very curious because Chico Xavier also devoted his mediumship to receive anthologies. And anthologies are a collective of poems in one only subject. Let's see kinds or examples of anthologies, please. We have the book, as you can see, Anthology of the Immortals, anthology, the Mediumship Anthology of Christmas. Of course, the subject is obvious, as Christmas. The Anthology of the Spirituality, which is the subject is spirituality. The anthology about motherhood, in Portuguese simply mãe. The anthology of the children. Of course, all of those poets psychographed by Chico Xavier was in the subject of children, related to children. The anthology of peace, of course, talking about the necessity of peace. The anthology of charity, talking about charity. The anthology of youth, talking about the youth, stimulating the youth to work with the centers, to work with the Spiritism movement. We have the anthology of friendship, of course, talking about friendship. We have the anthology of hope, talking about hope, how we must have hope in all kinds of situations in our lives. And the anthology of the way, talking about Jesus as our way, our path through the truth and through until we reach our dear God. So all of those books, each one of them here that I cited, are books that devoted to the kind of lyrics we call anthology. Okay, let's see the other one. Oh, this is a very special kind of poetry that Chico Xavier loved himself, and he dedicated himself to receive it. I myself, I saw numerous reunions, meetings that Chico Xavier wrote those kinds of poetries that we can call the trova. The trova, as you know, is a kind of poetry very small and dedicated especially to make fun of some important subject. Writing those trovas, this kind of work came from Italy, from the trovatori, so that we have the radical of the word that enclose a word is trova, in Portuguese trova, and Chico had lots of books in this way of poetry. Let's see what we've got. We can see here Gotas de Luz, the Glasses of Light, Gotas de Luz, Trovadores do Além, the Trovadores from Beyond, the book The Spirit of Cornélio Pires, O Espírito de Cornélio Pires. As you probably know, Cornélio Pires was from the state of São Paulo, from the interior of the state of São Paulo, and he was a spiritist when he was here incarnated with us, and wrote his trovas to teach us very, very nice works about the spiritism, about the mediumship, about health, about mental health, about spirituality. And after his death, he came to Chico Xavier and began to write, continuing to write his trovas. The first book was The Spirit of Cornélio Pires, and we can see all of those books from Cornélio Pires, like Trovas do Outro Mundo, Trovas from Other World, Trovas do Mais Além, Trovas from Beyond, and Conversa Firme, Strong Talk, and the book Coisas deste Mundo, Things from This World. All of them are books from the Trovatore Cornélio Pires. Let's see what we've got. Also in the Trova ways, we have the Baú de Casos, the cases in a case. Those ones were the three next ones were published by myself at União Espírita Mineira, the Spiritist Federation of the state of Minas Gerais. The first one is Roseiral de Luz, Roses from Light, Roses of Light. The other one are Pétalas da Primavera, which can the petals of spring, and Fulgor no Entardecer, which is light in dawn. No, sorry, light in sunset. Those all three books that I published in the 80s through União Espírita Mineira, all of them are in the Trova way of poetry. Different, various spirits wrote those trovas through Chico Xavier mediumship. We can also know those two books, Trovas do Coração, the Heart Trovas, and Trovas da Vida, Life Trovas. All of them was the Trova way of writing poetry. Let's see if we have one more. No, I don't think so. So this is the work for today, our study for today, the lyric genre in Chico Xavier works that we just saw here. I thank you all for being with us. Marco Gandra and I, we are very thankful to your attention. This was the 7th program, To Know Spiritism, Part 7, with the work of Chico Xavier. Next week, we're going to do the 8th program, talking about the dramatic genre in the works of Chico Xavier. Thank you all from Portal Saber Espiritismo in Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Also from DSN, Discover Spiritism Network in Florida. And also thank you from Allan Kardec Radio in Virginia. Hope to see you next time. Have a good night.